Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sandbox. Apologies for getting this video to you guys so late. I had to take a couple of weeks off for personal reasons, but I'm back and ready to dive right on in. Today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the infamous Game of Thrones book series, starting off with book 1. Now I know this book series is right at the peak of its hype, so please avoid giving away any spoilers for those who aren't caught up yet. Okay, but in all honesty, I've only seen the first 3 seasons of the show. I tried watching the show when the 4th season came out, but I just couldn't get into it. I guess at that phase of my life, it just wasn't for me. Fast forward to a couple of years later, I watched the first 2.5 seasons and then stopped. Another year passed and I finally finished the 3rd season and then just never touched it again. By the time the 7th or 8th season was coming out, I was just done with the show. I just couldn't do it, but I really wanted to know what the story was about. I really wanted to know this story. So last year, I was getting really into fantasy series and I figured, you know what? Why not give a Game of Thrones a try? And so each book, I'll read one book and then watch that season of the show that corresponds with that book, and so far it's been very rewarding and I am thoroughly enjoying it. Long story short, I think the book was a bit better than the show, but the adaptation was about as good as it probably could have been. You could definitely tell that there were moments within the show where they shortened something from the source material or they just cut it out entirely, but they still managed to allude to the book as much as possible, which made me enjoy the book and the show that much more. But enough chit chat, here's my official review for A Game of Thrones. I'm going to try to avoid heavy spoilers for those of you who are like me and never got into the show, but are willing to give the book series a try. But there might be some light spoilers because it's just really hard to navigate around some of them. Starting off with writing as usual, I think George R.R. Martin is fantastic. Right off the bat, we get one of the best chapters of the entire book that perfectly sets up this chilling and dark tone, as well as the tension and dangerous stakes within this world. We are introduced to 3 characters, and bada bing bada boom, we learn just how cruel this world and Martin is as an author. Obviously, if you know how this book or the first season of the show ends, you know that nobody is safe, but still this prologue does such a nice job at giving us that first taste of this style of storytelling. The writing itself, as far as prose goes, is very reminiscent of Old English while still embracing the modernity of proper language. It really helps suck you into the medieval world and feel like a crow soaring above as we watch the interconnected anthology presume. I think the choices that Martin makes are brilliant, from diction and style to what character he decides to use for a specific scene. He could easily tell this story from 3 to 4 different characters' points of view, but instead he switches it up and continues scenes from different characters' points of view to add to that unique feel of the world and show us just how much is at play here. Now, as the story progresses, there are definitely ebbs and flows, and you will definitely have a favorite character and look forward to their chapter, but Martin is always sure to remind you not to get too attached. And lastly, the themes for this book I found to be quite excellent for how average they were. In reality, the themes of justice and betrayal aren't anything new or all that exciting, but because of the story that Martin has crafted is so good and intriguing, and we as the reader are constantly learning more about the power structure, these themes are rather perfectly utilized. Overall, the writing style is immersive and well crafted. It makes it not only easy to read, but enjoyable to do so. However, writing can only make or break a book so much. How about the story itself? I think this is one of the rare cases where the plot is actually better than the premise. The premise is designed to intrigue you and draw you into the book, and more often than not, that will be better than the book itself because it's literally the hook. Authors know that if they can't hook you, they won't keep you around. But here I think the premise is more bland than what is actually going on in the story, which helps with that creepy, mysterious tone in the beginning. The prologue in the first couple of chapters will certainly hook you in with the world and premise, but the plot and its characters are way more interesting than anything else, which is why the reader will stay. I think it's obvious to anyone that has read this series or seen the show on HBO that stakes can't really get any higher than they are in Game of Thrones. No one is safe here, and even though there are more villain types than hero types, you still feel for the characters that Martin gives you a reason to care for. Of course, he is sure to remind you that they are not safe, this is not Disneyland, and there are no happy endings in war. And lastly, when it comes to action, I might be in the minority here, but I found it to be quite lackluster. It's not bad by any means, but I definitely have seen better, so I give it a 5 out of 10, which again is average. Fights in this book aren't all that exciting, there aren't really any memorable scenes or epic moments that hype you up for the next one. In fact, it almost seems like Martin would prefer to just skip action and move on with his character drama. Which leads me to characters, and this again is where the book shines. The characters are so deep, and each POV character has a moment that shows us who they truly are inside, as well as how others perceive them in other chapters. They all have their own intrinsic and extrinsic motivation that drives them to achieve a handful of goals within each power structure that they step foot in. Many are good in ways that we would deem good, but every character is dirty, and this book shows that even though you might be good or a hero in that sense of the word, this is not a world where justice reigns supreme. There are a ton of backstabs and tricksters and a whole conspiracy that shifts this story into high gear. Lastly, I want to touch on the world for a second. I think Martin did an incredible job building his world, both in the cities and the unique landscapes, as well as the multitude of houses and characters within them. I was very intimidated by this book because of how many places there are and characters within them. Plus, the characters all move around, so when you get towards the end, you'd expect a lot of it to be hard to follow. But Martin does such an incredible job at juggling it all. It was seamless, and I rarely had any issues. I will say that the biggest issue I have with this book is that because there is asymmetric information within this world, some characters will make the same revelation at different points in the plot. And so sometimes when Martin will just casually drop a big twist, I have to question, wait, is this common knowledge, or is this character just finding this out, or are we as an audience just finding out this huge bomb right now? It's kind of hard to tell at points. Although this is not often, and I think it was towards the first half of the book, however, it did hinder that first half a little bit for me. All in all, this is a solid fantasy book, and I hope and expect that the next few will build upon it well. I don't remember much about seasons 2 and 3 of the show, but I do remember each season being a little bit better than the one before it, and I can only hope that the same is true with the books. I think this is a fantastic start for the series, but I do want to leave some room to go up because I believe in this series. So I'm going to give A Game of Thrones a 9 out of 10 with the possibility to go up in the future. I think it's a little bit late for me to contribute to the spoiler talk for this series, so I'm just going to hold off until I catch up and Winds of Winter finally comes out in 2035. So with that said, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and share the video as well, as that is what helps the channel out the most here. And if you've read the book or seen the first season on HBO, comment down below what your favorite moment was and who your favorite character is. I'll say that for the show, Tyrion was by far my favorite, but I gotta give Jon Snow props because he stole the show in the book for me. Anyways, that's enough from me. Thanks again for tuning in. I will see you all next time.